This is Mike from Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and on today's video we're taking a look at the latest iteration of Swafan from our good friends over at Thermaltake. This is the Thermaltake Swafan GT12 and the GT14. Now these are slightly more upgraded than our previous RGB Swafans, such as the Swafan 14 and also the Swafan EX. These kind of combine some of the better features of both of them, but also add something else, which is darkness. Yes, as you've probably guessed already, these don't have any RGB on them. So for the purists out there that just want raw performance and don't want all the flashy lights, these might be right up your street. And also, they may be right up your street because they actually include something which is very unusual. And that is, with the Swafans, normally you get the reverse blade and you get the standard blade, which is kind of like a hybrid between air pressure and static pressure. Whereas these now actually come with 3 blades included. So you have the option of either high airflow, high static pressure, or reverse airflow. So this means that these will be suitable for pretty much any application inside your modern PC. If you're using them for case fans, then just use a high airflow. If you're using them on a radiator or some kind of CPU cooler, then you can use a high static pressure. Or if you just are mounting them somewhere where the blades just don't look right and you don't want to see the back of your fan, you want to see the front of your fan, then you can use the reverse airflow. And this actually works really well for some cases where you've got fans perhaps at the bottom and you want to blow air into the case in a chimney style, then these look and sound and actually work very, very well indeed. So in today's video, I'm going to go through an unboxing on both of these. Essentially, they're exactly the same other than the fact, obviously one is 120mm, one's 140mm. With that, you do get some slight differences in performance. I will be putting the links in the video description, so if you want to check them out in much more detail, you certainly can do. We won't be doing any real scientific testing on this, but we will be certainly having some fun with these. You can hook them up to a controller and give you some idea of the airflow and the noise profiles, etc, etc. Again, if you do want the full SP on these, head over to the Thermaltake site and you can see all the specifications for yourself, including the differences between the individual blades and how they will affect both airflow and also static pressure. So let's take a close look at what we actually get. So these are, believe it or not, single fans. So even though it's quite a large box, they are only single fan versions. Whether or not they plan to do twin packs or triple pack later on down the line, not entirely sure, but at the moment they are individuals. And when it comes to pricing, these aren't the cheapest fans out there, but with a quality fan, you do expect to pay a slight premium. At the moment, at the time of recording, the Swafan GT12 is somewhere in the region of about £24 here in the UK, whereas the GT14 is somewhere in the region of about 30. So do check out the links for the latest pricing and for availability near you. So we'll start off with the GT12. So as you can see, Swafan GT12 PC cooling fan, TT Premium Edition. Daisy chain design, so if you want to, you can daisy chain these. They do have pass-through connectors, so if you have a radiator and you want to put 3 of these together and you're a little bit concerned about wiring, don't be. Very easy to manage with those simple pass-throughs. And also, obviously, swappable fan blade design. Gives you some idea of the specifications there, these being the maximum, so 3.17mm H2O, maximum noise threshold of 29.8 dBA, and a PWM range of 500 to 2000 RPM, which is quite impressive. On the back of the box gives you some idea of basic usage and how they work, airflow directions, etc, etc. And on the side of the box it goes into some of the deeper specifications, and also there's quite a lot to take in there depending on the blade you're using, so I'll leave that on the screen for you so you can have a look through. Again, like I said, if you want more information, head over to the Thermaltake website, which will be linked in the video description. So when it comes to one of the more important features, which a lot of people are concerned about, is airflow. Maximum airflow on this, in the best configuration, around about 62 CFM, whereas with the 14, you're looking somewhere region about 109 CFM, so that is going to be your maximum airflow. When it comes to the highest static pressures in terms of H2O ratings, so we're looking at 3.17 for the 120mm and 3.33 for the GT14. So not a huge amount between them, both of them very high ratings. Again, if you look at other fans on the market and compare the specifications, you'll find these to be up amongst the best of them. So I've waffled on for long enough, let's take a look and see what we actually get in the packaging. So obviously it's not going to be too much of a surprise, but you do get a single fan in here. You also get an accessories box, and also you get the replacement blades, Thermaltake warranty. Speaking of warranties, warranty for 2 years on these. Would have liked to have seen a little bit more, if I'm completely honest with you, being they are a premium fan, but again, depending on the region you're in, you may find that differs anyway. But first, in the UK and potentially for the EU, we're looking at a 2-year warranty. So we'll start off with the fan itself, and as you can see, it comes pre-installed with the high air pressure fan, and also it's in a very nice black and grey look. So if you want that kind of minimalist or stealthy look, this is going to be right up your street. Something you'll notice straight away when you take these out of the packaging is the weight of them. These are really heavy, and it's using the latest resin technology for both the blades and the actual frame itself. And looking at the wiring, you can see here we've got some really short wiring in here. Don't worry, there is an extension cable provided as well, but this is going to be great for wiring up radiators, or if you've got them closely together, 240s, 320s, etc, etc. You can just daisy chain the cables with that PWM pass-through technology. Rubberized grommets on all four corners, on all sides, and you can see in the middle we've got this new improved bearing. This is actually a really good bearing, and the fact that you can actually take it apart and not destroy it is really, really cool. And also when it comes to cleaning, if you're in a somewhat dirty environment or your fans are just getting dusty, as they generally tend to because, well, computers, you can replace these very easily and clean them very easily. Literally all you need to do is to apply a little bit of pressure from the back, pop the blade out, and then you can take it, go to the sink or wherever your washroom, and you can literally wash this under the tap. There's no problems with that whatsoever. The only thing I would suggest obviously is when you're done, make sure it's fully dried, and also you can apply some lubricant to the actual shaft there to make sure that it spins properly when it's next used. But that's really cool. Cleaning fans is always a real pain in the backside, but being able to literally pop the frame out or pop the blade out of the frame, and then you've got access to the frame as well, so you can give that a wipe round, clean off any dust. Absolutely brilliant. The motor in there, 4-pole motor, as you can see there, all nicely constructed, and the actual frame itself is super, super rigid. You'd think that those arms, because they are quite narrow and there's only 4 of them, you'd think it'd be really wobbly, but literally I'm struggling to bend that. They are super tough. So in the accessories, as I said, this is our extension cable, again with a pass-through. So this will extend your PWM cable to route it to wherever you need it to go. Of course, if you're daisy chaining, you mean just have one cable coming through maybe 3 fans or whatever it is. So yeah, it makes wiring much easier and less to actually deal with. You also get mounting hardware, so you get 4 screws there, traditional case fan screws, and also you get radiator screws as well, so you can attach it to a radiator very easily. And also included, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, there is some lubricant as well. So when you actually take out the blades and clean them, etc., it's always worthwhile putting a very tiny little bit of the actual grease on the end of the shaft there, just to lubricate it for when you're using it. Of course, with this, because it isn't a dynamic sealed bearing, you can take these apart and not have to worry about them. Please, please, if you have regular PC fans and you want to clean them, don't pop them off of the shaft, because you will literally destroy them and also the bearings inside of them. So again, this is a really good point. You're going to get a longer life out of these because literally you don't have that sealed bearing. You can just pop them in, pop them out, however you need to. So that is what is included actually in the packaging. Let's get one of these hooked up now and we'll listen to it and see what the profiles are like and get an idea of the airflow. We'll do the same with the GT14 after, but we'll do the 12 first of all, because I think this is probably going to be the most popular one of the two. So this is a very basic setup, literally power supply just slightly off camera there. This is running into a Molex connector into a fan controller, thanks Ugly Bob, and literally we have a dial on here, so currently it is set to 0. So let's just get it started. And there you go. So that's going to be around about 500 RPM, and at which point it's actually moving a reasonable amount of air. If you're into silence, then I think for most people that's going to be absolutely fine. And that is a more static pressure optimized. So this is the default fan which comes installed. So this is the high air pressure, more for radiators, but certainly you can use it for pretty much whatever you want to. Let's crank things up a little bit to about 50%. And at which point you can probably hear the slight whoosh of air, because it is pushing actually quite a considerable amount now. If I listen to it on full blast, so the noise really doesn't change a great deal. There is certainly a bit of a tone to it, so if I'm completely quiet now you can hear it. But considering that is on full blast, I think that's actually quite impressive and quite quiet. So obviously you can have a radiator behind it or something, so that is going to change the noise profile somewhat anyway. But actually, yeah, I'm genuinely quite shocked. I thought it was going to be louder than that. So yeah, that is very impressive. So that is with the high static airflow. So this is now with the high airflow fan attached, and again we're at the lowest rating, so this is around about 500 RPM. Very slight difference in the actual airflow at this low RPM. It's not until we crank things up which this is actually going to come into its own. So let's crank up to about 50%. And again, you can hear that airflow coming through there. It's moving actually quite a lot of air again. Take it down to about 30%. Just seeing what is the silence level of this. Yeah, about 35–40% I think is basically inaudible. And let's crank it up to full speed. Now it is making a little bit more noise. Although still quite a lot of air pressure, but not as much as we had previously. So this is obviously designed more so for higher airflow optimization, so less restrictive cases, that sort of thing. Again, actually not particularly noisy. I was expecting it to be louder than that. So that is actually pretty cool. You could have this in your case and run it at almost 100%, and you probably wouldn't notice it a great deal amongst other fans in your PC. So there we go. That is the high airflow version. So now let's go with the reverse airflow. So obviously this is going to be for more of an intake at the bottom of your PC, or perhaps if you've got a push-pull configuration, you want to have these on the back of your radiator, then you certainly can do. So now I can feel nothing because the air's coming out of that side. So that is at its lowest, I think. Yep, that is, no, that's very lowest. So that is around about 500 RPM, maybe slightly under. Very, very quiet. In fact, I can hear the compressor on a refrigerator, which is considerably louder than the fans. So let's put it up to a little bit higher. So the noise threshold for air, it's going to be about the same, right? 35–40%. And let's take it to full blast. And actually just hear that it's just moving an absolute ton of air. Obviously this time it's moving it around here. So yeah, if you're using this as a intake in a sort of chimney style configuration, then you certainly can do. But yeah, it is making a bit of noise, but it's not offensive. It just sounds like a fan which is moving a lot of air, which is one of those things. If fans move a lot of air, they do make some noise. So there you go. That is all three versions of the blades on the Swafan GT12. Let's swap over now and go to the 14 and see how much more air that actually moves. So now we're back with the GT14, and as standard, it's here with the high air pressure. And let's get this fired up to see what the starting point noise is. Immediately I can feel the difference in the amount of air volume which is being moved, especially at this lower RPM. Yeah, that is basically a night and day thing. Most of this is going to be down to the fact of the sensor hub. Basically because the sensor hub is the same size for the 12 and the 14, obviously you've got extra area for blades, so you are going to be moving more air. So if you can fit a 140mm fan, then that is going to be the preferable way to go if you can, and also if you have the budget for it. So let's crank things up a little and see where the noise level is, where it kicks in. So about 30–40% again before we start actually hearing any noise at all. But again, it's mostly down to just airflow, and depending where you've got it situated, if you've got it on a radiator, yeah, you can definitely hear the difference in tone when there's some restriction on there. When it's actually got something it's pushing against, the noise profile is very different. So it's going to be something which you're going to have to kind of figure out for yourselves. Let's put it up onto full blast. Wow. I'm not sure if you're getting this, but this is moving a lot of air. Even though this isn't a high airflow, the static pressure is incredible. I don't know if you can hear that kind of going through my fingers. That is moving a lot of air. I'm slightly concerned I may chop off a finger, but anyway. So that is with the high air pressure. Just let that ramp down a little bit, and we'll swap out the blades again. Usual deal. 14 same as the 12, so just pop them out and you're good to go. put the new blade on, and yeah, you're ready to start again. So the starting speed on that, getting around about 400, 500 RPM. This is with the high airflow. Yeah, that is moving actually a reasonable amount of air. If you had that going through your PC just as one fan, I think most people would probably be okay with that, as long as you haven't got a particularly high-end system. But from most moderate systems, I think that'd be fine just to get some air flowing through the case. Let's move it up a little bit more. Right, with this one you can actually increase the speed a little bit more before there's any real noise as such. This is still virtually silent at almost 50%. So that is about 50%. I think you could... It's moving an incredible amount of air, it really is. Let's put on full blast just for the hell. If I had hair, it would be moving now. That is moving a considerable amount of air. I did actually do some testing with these a little bit earlier, and even though I haven't got a device which is really suitable for this, even at around about a foot away at full blast, this is still moving some in the region of about 5 miles an hour worth of air. I did mess around with the settings in sort of somewhere between 5 and 7 miles per hour, depending the kind of angle it was on. But yeah, it is that is moving a considerable amount of air. So if you do want to move a lot of air in your system, this is going to be a good way of doing it. And obviously, if you want to move a lot of air but you don't want to have the noise, then just add more fans. You can reduce the RPM by increasing the amount of fans. So yeah, these are very cool. I like those a lot. So let's go to the very last blade now. So this is the reverse high airflow. And that is still moving quite a decent amount of air, but obviously in the kind of the wrong direction, if you see what I mean. So if that's on the bottom of your PC pushing air in, or on the back of a radiator perhaps trying to help with push-pull, or just at the back of your PC blowing cold air in. So for me, having one in the back of this case here, actually blowing cold air in, so it gets more cold air to the radiator, it would be great, and it would also still look very nice. So let's turn that up to about 50%. Yeah, you can start hearing the air literally moving through there quite quickly. And put it on to full blast. You probably wouldn't want it running at full blast 24/7. I think that might be slightly annoying. But even from this side, I can feel the air going past where it's trying to push it through. And I'm not sure. Calf's about 6 foot away, and it's moving her hair. That's on reverse airflow. So that's probably the worst of the airflow versions because it's doing a reverse technology thing. But anyway, very, very cool. Literally. Let's put that down to a lower speed so we can still talk but still have some airflow. So there we go. That is, I'll put it on here. Is it going to vibrate? It shouldn't do because these have been optimized for low vibration and not transferring noise through to surfaces, even though obviously a table isn't the best way of doing it. But yeah, I think that looks very cool and certainly looks better than looking at the back of a fan, which generally look quite ugly. So if you're into your aesthetics, if you are an enthusiast, a PC enthusiast, I think these are going to be definitely worth a look. For the majority of the mainstream, I think it's going to be a tough call, especially at the prices. Like I said before, launch prices, some of the region about £24 for the GT12 and looking nearly £30 for the GT14. Obviously, if that changes or anything, do check out the links in the video description. You can check out the latest pricing. But I think in terms of longevity, because you have the option to lubricate the shaft for the bearing, you also have the options to keep them clean, give them a wipe over, basically disassemble it. I think you're going to get a lot of longevity. Now, obviously, these have just come out, so it's very hard for me to say whether or not that is going to be something or not. Impossible to tell at the moment, but just the fact that you can take it apart and re-oil it, etc. very easily, and it's actually designed to do that, I think you are going to get some serious lifespan out of these. Well, the fan should last for 40,000 hours. That is its rating. So, yes, pretty cool. Like it a lot. Personally, I'm a little bit of a fan of RGB, as you possibly may have noticed already, but I think for those of you that want to do a stealthy build and want high performance fans, but don't particularly want to pay the Noctua premium prices, or just basically don't like brown and beige, I think these are definitely going to be worth putting on your shopping list. But what I think about them isn't important, what you think about them is. So let us know your thoughts and comments in the comments section below. But for now, I've been Mike. This is Mike's Unboxing Reviews and How To, and hopefully we'll catch you in the very next video. Thanks for watching.